all play. 365, we making up plays. You talking the game, get you through the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety topics never the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making up plays. You talking the game, get you through the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety topics never the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. We on top of our game. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays.
What's good, everybody? And welcome to another show of Just Say the Truth. I'm your girl, LDZ. And you know what? This is like a new crew because it's just us three. You know what I'm saying? Like we've never just us three done a show. And I'm kind of excited. What's going on, Ray?
Hey, what's going on? What's going on? I'm excited. Got a good show ahead of us, so I'm just ready to get into it.
Yes, and what about you, Mike?
It's gonna be an interesting show. You know those TV shows where like it'll be like 12 seasons, and like throughout all of it, there's always two characters who like never had any scenes together. That's me and Ray. Me and Ray never have any time together. It's always a bunch of people, and there's me and Ray in the same.
That's how I feel about all three of us, to be honest. Like when I saw that it was just Ray, and then I was like, okay, so there's gonna be me and Ray, which would have been fine, but I was like, I'm gonna be a few minutes late. But then I was like, oh, it's Mike too. It's us three. Yeah. Oh, this is gonna be
like, me and Ray ain't never had no screen time together.
Exactly.
Look forward to it. It's gonna be exciting.
Yes. So I'm excited. Let's talk about some NBA. NFL. We'll probably talk about some more NFL just because that is more of a hot topic because of what is going on. Let me turn this down because I know I can't hear it, but I'm watching my Mizzou game. Real looking okay for this game. But COVID's running rampant all through the NFL. And like I said, I knew this wasn't one of our topics, but I just wanted to throw it out there that because the NFL had moved so many games, I don't think people realize like how close the NFL was into canceling several games. Right. And it's even that way again because COVID has it's still running through Kansas City. I don't know what's going on in Kansas City, but don't go in Kansas City because it's going all through. It's going all through Kansas City, and now it's hit the Jets.
Hit the Bears too.
Yeah, it hit the Bears, but it's like
a lot of things hit the Bears, but it's COVID definitely.
Washington got beat up by it too.
Yeah, and like I said, it's they're getting hit. But like now their people are getting added.
Right.
Yeah, like people are getting added every day. Like right now, like I said, majority of the Jets players. And like we were talking about it, and Freddie was like, Jets aren't important. Jets. It's not so much the Jets aren't important. Let's just say they have to cancel a game. And we were talking about it, like their last three games, even though this next game has no playoff potential obviously not for the Jets, but
not either,
and Jaguars either. But the next two games, that Buccaneers and Buffalo Bills, the Buffalo Bills might be fighting to get some type of position in the playoffs. So again, even though they might not be your team and they might not be a good team, you need them to play.
Right.
Like, I don't care how you look at it. Like, you need them to play somewhat. Like, I don't care if it's the backup of the backup.
Well, if you make Washington play, you have to make these guys play.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think that's the part. And I think the NFL is going to go one of two ways. And I think I proposed this, and I don't know if we can get to it or not. Like you have the NHL version where they're like, we're stopping the season. The players are not going to the Olympics. Or you got the NBA version, which is basically this is just going to kind of become a way of life. And we're even entertaining if you're asymptomatic and COVID positive, we're still going to play. I think if you are the NFL at this time of year in the playoffs, there's some flexibility, but there's a bunch of money at stake. So is it I put out subpar talent and play on time, or like Washington, they spread it. I think we were supposed to play Saturday. They pushed it to Tuesday, and we still ended up playing with a quarterback that we called in on Friday night.
Mm-hmm.
And so if that's,
I will say he played pretty decent.
Yeah.
He did, but you could tell there were plays that could have been made that if there was any kind of rapport or timing, he would have made them.
Right.
And you don't want that.
Let's not lie though, Ray. The current quarterback you have is also verdict of a COVID protocol type of thing. So, I mean, it could have worked out. It definitely could have, because the same situation happened to Taylor Heineke.
No. I agree, but we would have fared better with Taylor.
Oh, without a doubt.
Oh, yeah.
And especially with the way we started the game up 10-0, and we couldn't do nothing in the first half because I don't think the coordinators trusted Gilbert to make any of the plays. Once we got behind, then he had to throw. He played a lot better, but he missed a couple different throws. So I think if you're the NFL, you can't bubble it because it's just too many players. It's too much personnel. Yeah. I think you just expand the rosters. Maybe you open up the ability for signing people later, but the goal is to play. You can't. I'm not gonna say you can't. In my experience, from what I've seen with NFL owners, money is the most important thing. Right. They could really care less about health, and that means we're gonna play these games one way or the other.
Now, here's the question though, and I was just kind of spitballing it, and I didn't have this question coming out the gate, but Ray kind of alluded to it. Expanding rosters, and say something happens in the playoffs to where your entire QB room goes down, like we've seen in Washington, like we saw with the Bills, like we saw with a lot of different teams this year. If that is to happen, do you see anybody giving Colin Kaepernick a call? If it's playoffs, do or die? Not a single team?
Nope.
I could – there's two teams I think that would be Baltimore and San Fran. Because he could come in and fit their system.
You don't think San Fran would just rock with Trey, though?
Say that again?
You don't think San Francisco would just rock with Trey Lance then?
I mean, if we're assuming he's available.
Oh,
if
he's
available, absolutely.
Available.
But if they lost their whole current room.
Right, if they lose every single QB.
I could see those being the only two spots, but given the Mason Rudolphs and others and Davis, Mills, and all these other quarterbacks that's playing, they're better off allowing them to trade Deshaun Watson somewhere than they are to sign Cam Newton.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. And I think it doesn't matter how much we love Kaepernick or how much you don't like Kaepernick, because, I don't know. I can't speak for everybody that watches the show. But we all know NFL is never going to call him again. They paid him $2 million basically to shut up and get out of our face with that lawsuit that he had a couple years ago.
It's crazy because $2 million doesn't justify the $50+ million he would have made in the NFL, but that's a conversation for a different day.
Yeah. But you know what? Let's just be honest. He's making better. I think he's making better money just doing what he's doing now outside of NFL.
Special. He's chilling.
I mean, he's doing all right, but we're seeing the numbers that are coming up for these quarterbacks. If you're a starting quarterback with playoff experience and Super Bowl experience.
Look at Nick Foles.
Stafford, Goff, like the Cousins, he's definitely, in my opinion, on that level of talent and resume. He went to Lambeau and beat Aaron Rodgers. That guy in the right system gets a bunch of money. And that was I think it was on this show, or it might have been the Monday show when we were talking about Urban Meyer. You would need somebody with that kind of bravado to come in and say, Colin's my guy and I'm picking him. Yeah. I don't think that coach exists in the NFL.
Right. I don't think so either. I think college, yeah, but not in the NFL.
Like, don't get me wrong. I think all of them are going to get paid, and I do believe, he deserves it. But what I mean, he's better off. Like, I mean, he's better off because, for one, you don't have to deal with NFL's BS. He doesn't have, I don't care what nobody says. NFL's BS is sometimes hard to bear with, and even though he wants to be out there, I know the player in him wants to be out there, and the player in him wants to be playing. There, you don't have to get hit.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I understand you're not making as much money, but I'm not saying he won't get CTE, but the likelihood of him developing a severe case of it has probably been shrunken, I guess, by a lot of years. So we were talking about that,
sure.
And so, but that's, what I mean. But, at the same time, there's definitely, I could name about 5 QBs right now. They're not, maybe not starters, but there are some starters that I feel like he's a better QB than. But like I said, that's a whole nother subject for another day.
Right.
Yeah, but Colin Kaepernick, obviously, I can't even get a pair of shoes because I've been trying to get like those last couple pair of shoes, and I was on there dueling computer and app.
I got you, easy. I got you.
Got nothing. It was sad times. Sad times. 8.5.
I think
women.
the two other names I would consider, kind of from what we were saying, though, I think depending on your team, I think you got to look at Phillip Rivers. And
right. No, yeah, that was definitely another one.
And the other name that had been floated at one point but kind of died down is Andrew Luck. Could he come in for a playoff run? I think he's shown that he has the arm strength and the talent. The issue was health. But could he come in, fill in for a team for a week or two? He, I think, graduated from Stanford, so he's smart enough. I would be curious to know if either of those two would get a call. Especially if it's just for a playoff run.
Yeah, Andrew Luck ain't returning.
No.
And I doubt if either one returning, but because they tried to get Phillip at the beginning of the season, and he was like, I'm thinking about it. And here we are, week 16? Yeah, it's not happening.
I still think Larry Fitzgerald pulls it out at the last week and then comes in for the playoffs. I'm still holding on to it.
Well, now there's the issue. Like, I want to talk about Arizona, and because last week it kind of looked like before, well, not this past week, not this previous Arizona game, but the week before, D-Hop got, he still kind of looked like he got lost in the shuffle because they were bringing players back.
Right. Like
into the game. And so that's like the issue is like, is he, what I'm saying? I think they have too many wide receivers, and it sounds crazy, but when you lose D-Hop in the shuffle, and I understand injuries maybe played a part of it, but when you lose him in the shuffle, that means like you got too many people. You got too many good. And it's not a bad thing. It's just you have too many good players on your team.
Right, and that's Arizona too. Right now is like you have D-Hop, who's generational. You have Kirk. You can't take Kirk out of the lineup because he's productive. And Rondale Moore is one of those guys who you really want to see. Can this kid flourish into something? Whereas Larry, you know what you have with Larry. Like Larry can kind of be that guy. He's only here for a short period of time. So I would rather give those reps to Rondale than with Larry. So I definitely get that. But if D-Hop's really injured, I would definitely give Larry a call.
But Larry's still on. Actually, technically, he's never retired.
Right. So he's chilling. He's still a free agent.
He's not a free agent, is he?
Yeah, he is.
Is he considered a free agent, or he's? Yeah. I thought he still might have been under contract.
He didn't sign an extension, but he never retired.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So I didn't know if he was a free agent. I didn't know what his status was. I know he didn't necessarily didn't retire. He just
and then sign with the team.
Yeah. So someone asked him if he was he was, interested, and he said it does not appear to return to the NFL anytime soon. Nothing has changed on the front. It said, this is from Larry Fitzgerald. Somebody asked him in Sports Illustrated as of yesterday. But yeah, that's why I didn't know. Like, I was like, is he still under contract? Is he not? He just turned 38 at the end
Really?
of
Sure.
August.
Just 38. He's an
Hey, hey,
old
hey,
38.
hey, don't. What we not going to is what we not
You
going to
ain't played in
do.
the NFL for as long as Larry did.
I know.
Larry's
Oh,
an
I
old
know.
38.
But that's why
He's not a
I don't want
Josh
to.
Gordon 38.
I
He's
don't
a
want to
Larry
consider
Fitzgerald
him an
38.
old 38 because you know what I'm saying. He was still getting his yards. He was still getting his cut. He was still getting his touches. He wasn't a what's his name that came from the Cowboys? Jason Witten, tight end, slow 38. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause actually, he still had some speed. I'm not going to say like you said, Josh Gordon 38. No, but he was. I don't want to say an old 38. He was average.
I'm
You
just talking
know.
about the wear and tear on his body. He didn't
Oh
miss
yeah. Oh,
games.
obviously.
He played a lot of games on that body, and that would be my concern. And coming out of retirement for what? For the Cardinals, who I am not a believer in, mainly because of their quarterback and their coach.
All
Yeah,
right.
and we could talk about that because I was going into that. So let's go into it. The Lions just upset them, and the Cardinals were dominant.
Top 5 team in the league.
You know what I'm saying? Like we were talking about them week in, week out. We were like, hey, they're going to do it. They're going to be this. They're going to be that. They lost two games, and I understand what the Rams did, and this is uh like a league that you goes after one another, like they repeat after one another, they mock one another. Our team's going to start making sure that little person is rattled,
Yeah.
like, and you know what I'm saying, like because once he's rattled, I think he forgets like there's plays, like that's what it looks like. I'm not saying that's how it
I
is.
would too, though. Respectfully, I would too. If a 350-pound man was beating my ass for 2.5 hours a day, I'd be kind of forgetting what I was doing.
But that's the thing. We saw this last year. He
Yeah.
tailed off, and they faded at the end of last year. He's fading again this year. And I just saw a tweet that came out with the Pro Bowl rosters, and to me, it's criminal that he's a Pro Bowler over Matthew Stafford. Like he's missed games. His team has
Boy
won
didn't
without
make it.
him.
Ray, don't tell me my boy didn't make it.
Matt Stafford didn't make it.
Matt
I don't
Stafford,
think.
Brady, Rodgers, and Murray for the NFC.
As long as Kirk Cousins isn't on that list, I'm perfectly fine with it.
Cousins, no Dak, no Kirk. Those are the three. But I've
That's a fan list, bro. That's a
I've been
fan
on there. I have not seen it from him. Like I don't get the hype. I get that he's exciting. He makes some plays, but similar to Lamar, I have similar criticisms. And I think we're seeing in some of these bigger moments and bigger games, he's not getting it done. So if I'm Larry, do I want to leave what I'm doing to come potentially get blasted running those? He's a slot receiver, so he's in the fire, and this little dude's going to put me in a dangerous position. I don't think it's worth it. But that's just me.
Right.
I agree.
It would be a great story.
I like the storyline, but I agree with you. Like, do you really want, somebody that kind of throws to us, like he throws to a spot, praying that you're there, but he don't try to see if there's a person running the route to the spot. He just, like once he gets rattled, he throws. Like he's just,
It's just like a video game. It's just like he rolls out the pocket and then he just chucks it. D hops out there somewhere.
Yeah, or exactly, and I understand that's what happens for Mahomes, but guess what? The league is caught up with Mahomes, and that's why he is really high up. No, that's why he's really high up in interceptions this season.
Right.
This is high. I'm not saying they caught up with him and that's why they're losing. No, it's just that's why his interception numbers have went up because the league is starting to catch up with that. And I feel, if the league would have paid attention, what Ray said last season, because we all saw it, just people, I guess, forgot about it because they were on this great streak at the beginning of the year, and they forgot. All you have to do is just put your hands up in this man's face.
Right. And I think the problem was, and not to say it's everybody, because obviously defenses were trying to prepare for Kyler Murray, but and overall, looking at it from the outside looking in, when you would look at it, people were mainly focused on Christian Jones, Isaiah Simmons, J.J. Watt, and the rest of the gang out there. They were focusing on that defense kind of being the thing, kind of like the Chicago Bears of being the defense is going to be the number one thing that makes them great this year. The offense is the question mark. But once they kind of started realizing the offense was clicking because you weren't focusing all your attention onto that, that's when Kyler kind of started exploiting that. But now that people are starting to catch on to it, okay, we got to put more pressure on Kyler. JJ's not even there anymore, so it's not even a problem. You don't have to worry about it. Chandler Jones, no disrespect to Chandler Jones, like started the year out with 5 sacks. That's cool. But after that, it is what it is.
He died down. And
right.
And isn't this his contract year? Like, you're supposed to be out here blazing hot.
Don't worry. The Bears will offer him $200 million because that's what they do.
Hey, at least Robert Quinn is at least trying to make up for some of that contract. I will say he's having
trade him right now. Trade him all the time.
Oh, I'm just saying, like, I wanted him to stay here.
Right.
And when I saw how much y'all paid for him, I was like, good luck, Chicago. That's all I could say because I knew
last year, and I was like, okay.
But this year, like I said, he's having a better season, so he's making up. He's making up for it, but like you said, I think your team will overpay for him.
Yeah, no doubt. But that's the same thing with Chandler. Like, you look at the defense, though, and now that the defense isn't a problem, you could focus solely on Kyler. And now that D-Hop's not there, it's going to be even worse because James Conner's banged up as it is. You can't feed Conner because you feed Conner, you're going to have to be feeding him in a bedpan because that boy is going straight to the hospital, like point blank, period. Like, I love James Conner, but and this is just me personally.
They're getting Chase Edmonds back this week.
Yeah, but even he's not 100. Like, you don't ask someone to come back when he's not ready. But my thing with James is I don't even think he's injury prone like a normal person who's injury prone. Like, we all know James is a cancer survivor. And I think when you're on leukemia and when you're on radiation and all that stuff for so long, he never had these problems prior to that. So after that, I think his body has just not been able to handle the NFL respectfully. And I think it's honestly his biggest Achilles heel right now. So I think if you understand, as long as you can neutralize James Conner and Edmonds, then you can win that game.
Do you think his immune system is kind of like our immune system, like it's an autoimmune disease, kind of suppressed?
No, I think when you have your bones, your muscles, everything after leukemia, I know my dad, it was the same situation. Like, you're just a lot weaker and you're just not. It's not even the immune system definitely goes down. Like, if you went through that and you get COVID, like, it's probably going to be a really bad time. Even like a normal bug, it's probably a lot worse. But your body as a whole, like, you're just a lot more banged up than you usually are. Like, you're taking hits that you can't take anymore that you used to take like nothing. So I think that's where James Conner's problems lie. Now, again, I'm no doctor, so I'm not out here saying that's what it is. I'm just saying that's what I noticed after he came back from that. And I give him all the props in the world because that's amazing. But I think that's definitely a problem for this team is the health concern of James Conner because that was the problem in Pittsburgh.
Oh, of course. And that's why, he was almost even though he had like a decent career there, that's why like he was considered like a backup.
Right. That's why they were still living on. That's why you still bring in Najee. That's why you still bring in all these guys because James just isn't available week to week like that.
But I think in college he was like they thought they brought him in
before the cancer. He was perfectly fine,
right? And they brought him in, or when they drafted him, they brought him in to be the man,
right?
And he came back and he just wasn't. He couldn't stay healthy. And
that's no shot at him. I'm just saying it's definitely
his situation is a little different. He's not Anthony Davis glass, but naturally, when you're fighting and doing all that stuff with your body, taking those hits, the recovery from those hits, like it's just
different.
Yeah.
So I think he is what he is, and I think he's great at what he does. I think using him a lot more in the passing game has been a benefit. Getting him out in space is great.
Bro. Fantasy football, I have James Conner. I love it. This man rushed for 15 yards, gave me 30 points. I was so confused. I looked at the stat sheet. I was like, that's insane. That's insane to me to think that. He had over 90 receiving yards. It was the craziest game.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he's been helping me on that. I will say, because I thought he wasn't going to be that great of a pickup. But I picked him up because I was like, man, these running back situations. I'm like, okay, I just need a running back.
I traded Madison for James Conner, and it worked out.
And it worked. Dude, when I tell you this man has been helping me, I'm
He's
like,
killing it.
oh, okay, never mind. I was all
I would
excited.
say that has been almost for me as big of a storyline that no one's talking about. Fantasy football has been significantly impacted by all this COVID
Dude,
stuff.
Yes.
do you
Like
know
my
the name of my
playoffs.
team, bro?
Huh?
My team's name is Kelsey's Killers, and I'm going into this week without Kelsey. It's just the Killers.
Like I
Where's
had
Kelsey,
Lamar.
bro?
Fortunately, I picked up
Oh
Huntley
my
last
God.
week as a replacement, and he filled in great. But it's been quite a few weeks. I've had at the last minute try and swap people out.
Right,
You
it's
know,
bad, bro.
I picked up what's his name in the Texans, their wide receiver Brandon Cooks. I picked him up
Oh, he's
just
He's
for
good.
a
had a good
humbug.
year.
He
Silent.
was having a good season. Guess what? He just went on COVID.
Did he? I
Right?
didn't know that.
Yeah, today he just got put on the COVID list. And I'm like, half my team. I'm second place, so I had a bye last week. Thank God I had a bye last week because at first they were rolling, and then the Bucks game happened, and yeah, the Bucks game happened, and Tom Brady looked like crap. My running back
Man,
Leonard Fournette, he looked like he got banged up, and
Yeah.
the Mike Evans is kind of like. So I don't expect to win this
I have
week.
my
I do not.
that boy is
And
so
yeah,
good.
but I literally won because I have suck up Tom Brady, Mike Evans, and Leonard Fournette. Like
you
I
sound
won
like
one
me.
week. I won one week, and I was like, I didn't think my team was even going to make it this far. But Leonard Fournette, surprisingly, with those bad
He has
ankles,
balled out
he's
these last couple of weeks.
and I will show you messages. I said, I know I can't depend on Leonard's ankles this much longer.
Man.
Man, he's been
Yeah,
doing it.
you can't though.
He's
You
been
really
doing
can't.
it.
Respectfully, you can't.
Yeah, like I take it all back. Like my bad, Leonard Fournette, and those ankles.
Nah,
But-
it's still not your bag. You still can't count on him. I'm just saying.
Oh no, you can't because he's probably out this week. They're probably resting now
Right.
until
Who they
playoffs.
bring in? Le'Veon Bell. So it's like
Mhm.
it is.
I mean, the
really
benefit
quick, though.
that Tampa has, their last 3 games is trash. 2 Panthers, 1 Jets.
Yeah, and Ronald Jones, he's a decent backup, so it's not like you're sitting there trying to figure out.
And he
You
should be
know,
fresh because he ain't been playing much this year.
Yeah, Ronald's just bad.
oh, he should be real. He real fresh. I'm trying to pick
Right.
him up.
He
I'm
better
trying to
hold
look-
on to
God
that ball,
wait.
though, I'll tell you that.
I hope I get this this waiver wire because
I
I
hate
need this.
Ronald Jones. I hate.
There's no other. I don't have really too much other options.
No, I hear you. I had him in fantasy. I had so much high hopes. Even Bruce Arians was like, "Oh yeah, he's getting half the snaps this year." I was like, "Bruce, even you lied to me. Like, why?
He
Why would you
can't
lie
hold
to
on
me?"
to the ball.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's his biggest problem.
Yeah, because I picked up Leonard Fournette, and everybody was like, Ronald's going to be the starter. I'm like,
Because Ronald was the starter last year, and then
Yeah.
they brought Leonard in, and he
Right.
kept eating at his carries. And before you know it, coming into this year, Ronald kept playing around. Lenny said, I'll take that and run with it, literally.
Right. As he should.
yeah, that four touchdown game. I was like, man, thank you, Leonard. Like,
Fournette.
you my homie. Like, yes, you my homie, you my ace. Yeah, but yeah, that's like another thing, right? But that's a good point bringing that up because I understand it's just fantasy.
Nah,
But if you got money, you know what I'm saying? If you got money on the line,
there's a lot of money invested in fantasy.
Thank
regular
God.
people.
Thank God, like the one league that last week that the Rams played and Tyler Higbee was out.
Right.
Thank God, like it was my free league. No offense to my free league, you know what I'm saying? I still play, I still manage it. But thank God it was like a free league.
Right.
Because there was no other tight ends available, of course. I wasn't picking up nobody to drop Tyler Higbee because that was the only person you could drop. I'm not dropping him.
Right.
Like F y'all, I'm not dropping Tyler. I
I
understand Tyler hasn't done the greatest, but he does enough.
He does all right.
He does enough, and especially in that league, he's given like way high amounts to, you know what I'm saying? Like his numbers are inflated on everything. So probably your average, maybe only 9 points for Tyler, you know what I'm saying? Would be he gets probably about like 20 something. You're like, how did he get that? Well, that's because, so that's what I mean. Yeah, so that's it. That's like, but
That's our
fantasy,
talk tonight.
fantasy is just
It's a mess.
it. Yeah,
Kelsey's killers. R.I.P.
And all it takes is you to lose a quarterback.
Yeah, really.
And even
No,
with
I'm
position
done.
players that's healthy, now they got these bums throwing to them. Like I had McLaurin last night, and there's just no rapport. The
Right.
whole offense changes.
yeah,
So yeah, man, it's been crazy.
yeah. And so I've been trying to, and that's when you second guess, like, should I play this player because they're on their third string quarterback or they're on their second string quarterback? Should you know what I'm saying? Like, are they
Right.
still going to get their touches? Kind of like even like that player is like injury. Like I have Jared Judy. I do not know if I wanted to play him or not because of luck. I don't get me wrong. No, I'm sorry, Locke. And I should know that
Oh
because he
yeah.
Yeah,
played
Drew Lock's
he
trash.
played for Mizzou, and I love him.
He's bad.
You know what I'm saying? Because of course Drew Lock came from Missouri, so I watched his whole career. But is he trash? Yep.
Yeah,
And
he's a bum.
but
He's bad.
it's like I don't know. Like
I think he's a cool guy. I've seen some of his sideline dances, but when it comes to
Horsecock
playing the
Lock.
quarterback position,
I can say that
yeah.
on TV, right?
what'd you
What'd you
say?
say?
That's his name, Horsecock Lock. That's what they called him in Missouri. I'm
I
just
don't know
saying.
about that.
That was his.
LDs might know
I
more than
know
me.
for a fact that was his nickname back in college.
That
I'll
sounds
take your word
horrible.
for it, but
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, he
he
was rocking with it. He trademarked it. He be selling T-shirts of it. So I mean,
did it?
Hey! If he sells T-shirts, make your money, boo. I'm not the one to
you
stop
are
you
pretty.
I
You
ain't,
are
from your
not.
hustle.
I ain't
I don't
knocking
stop
nobody's hustle. Make your money.
exactly, and I don't stop nobody's hustle. If that's what you want to put on T-shirt
Mm-hmm.
and it's selling,
Mm-hmm.
do you make your money?
Hey,
Don't let
if it wasn't sus, I'd support it. I just can't walk down the street in my neighborhood wearing a shirt that says that. Like it's a little different, but
I don't.
I might
I
catch some
don't
heat.
want to.
might
I
catch some
don't
heat.
want to walk down my street. I don't want to walk in my neighborhood with that on. Like
No,
that's
I
just
would definitely
It'd
let's
be a
be
wear it.
little
real.
different if you wore it. I think you might get some
No,
different looks and attention.
no,
I might
no.
get some problems.
I'm in like country suburbia. I don't know if they'll. I don't know. I don't know where that's
See,
granted,
they
but
might not even rob me. They just might shoot me out of fear of what I am. So they'll just end it right then and there.
Oh man.
They're gonna be like, no, we're not. Get away! Like we're not rocking with that.
so since they are not the team, like I said, we're talking about we were talking about a little bit of everything, but we were talking about Rams and the lack thereof. Not Rams. I'm sorry, Arizona and the lack thereof of scariness that they used to have. Um, the second part of that question was for the Lions is Dan Campbell and the right fit for Detroit. Mike, go ahead because it's in your division.
I love Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell's the coolest dude I've ever met in my life. I thought he was weird. Like at first, he was in that press conference. He's like, "We're gonna bite everyone's kneecaps off," and I was like, "Aaron Rodgers and Khalil Mack and Justin Jefferson, like that's what you want to start like off rip. Like that's how you want to play this." Then Matthew Stafford left. Then all these other guys left, and I was like, "Man, Dan, you got." I was like, "Damn, Dan, like you got a rough go, bro." But you know what? I stuck with them. I root for the Lions every single week because I like what they're building. I'm confused by the Jared Goff situation because I don't know if that's like a bridge gap or if like they truly believe in him. So I'm very confused on how that works. I don't think we're going to figure that out through this year's draft because those quarterbacks, respectfully, are dog shit. But they're bad. But it's a
I agree.
situation where I really like Dan. I love his charisma. I love his attitude. One thing I do think it's cool to celebrate your first win all season after being like 10-1 or 0-10-1. And that's fine. But then you were partying after the second win, and I was like, all right, well, it's a good win, but like we're not gonna start doing that. We're not gonna be celebrating being 2-10. But no, I really like Dan. I think he's a great coach surrounded by bullshit and like being real. Like it's I like what's his name? I forget his first name. But St. Brown. St. Brown I like a
Yes,
lot.
I like him.
Panay Sewell is generational in my opinion in the up and coming. The reason why he's not as good as Quentin Nelson was when he was younger is because Quentin Nelson went to a pretty decent offensive line already. The Lions need to construct the entire thing. So you have to build up that, and I think they'll be solid after that. That's what I think this draft should be. Just build up an O-line, and then by the time you're done with that, you can get a quarterback. But I trust Dan. I like Dan a lot. I'll take Dan Campbell over Matt Nagy any day.
No, so I'm similar to you, but I thought that initial press conference was trash. I'm like,
oh yeah, it was weird as shit. Like, don't get me wrong.
You're
I was
like
not
you're a
watching
clown. You came from nowhere. You show up talking this nonsense about biting the kneecaps, but that team has played really, really hard. And bringing in the way they got Jared Goff in that situation, the expectations, they've had a bunch of running backs there that I thought were going to be good, and none of them have really panned out. They've had receivers I thought were going to be good, didn't pan out. Golden Tate left. So they've been just constantly rebuilding. And I think he's a good coach. I think he's put the team in the best position to win a lot of these games. They haven't been getting blown out week in and week out. They've been competitive.
Mm-hmm.
You change a couple pieces, you get a couple pieces around. They very well could be a much better team than they were. Right. So I won't kill him as much for the celebrations. I think that's his honest personality. Right. And if that's who you are, then I want you to be who you are. Don't dumb down yourself or kind of tone down yourself just because of what it is. Like, if that's that you're trying to establish and change the culture, you don't know when the next time you're gonna get another win. So celebrate it. I think that fosters a certain level within the team, especially at the end as they kind of come down this last stretch where they've already been eliminated from the playoffs. It keeps people engaged. People are playing for their jobs now, and so I look forward to and I expect them to continue to play hard. But no, I've been impressed by what he's done. Because when he came in, I thought he was a clown. But
yeah, I did. I was like, dude, who are you talking to? But he proved me wrong.
Do you think the Lions should stay the course with the coach or go in a different direction? Oh, I think they should stay.
I love what they're doing. I think this is the first time in a long time I've actually seen a culture with the Detroit Lions. Like, an understand. Like, before it was just predicated on Matthew Stafford, and now it's actually a culture being built around Jared Goff. Where I'm not looking at it as. A lot of the time, I felt like with LeBron James in Cleveland, like it was LeBron James and then Cleveland. But now what Detroit's trying to do is instead of focusing on Matthew Stafford being the face of the franchise, we're going to build a culture that represents what Detroit football is supposed to be. And then, because let's be real, like the actual diehard Detroit Lions fans are the greatest fans in the world because they have nothing to be proud of ever in anything. And they're still there, and they're still living life. So my hats are off to them. But I definitely do think that Dan Campbell is building something right now that it might take a little while, and it's not going to be pretty. But when it's all said and done, I think it's going to be solid. And I don't think Jared Goff is going to be there for that.
Yeah, I kind of think the reason, of course, we know why the Rams went after Stafford because it's like what we talked about last week. It's right now. They want the Rams to win right now, like this tomorrow. Like they need to win everything.
Like they don't have time.
And Jared, even though we might not like Jared, they can still kind of build around
Jared.
They can kind of still mold him. Right. Like Stafford, you couldn't.
He's very young. People forget how young Jared is.
Yeah, Jared is really young, and so you can't. You could still change a little bit of like, I don't want to say it's change in throwing stance, but you can still kind of change how he is, his game a little bit. You couldn't do that with Stafford. Right. Stafford was already.
I think Jared is just more decision making than his overall performance and mechanics. I just watch him do things sometimes, and I'm like, I don't even think you knew what you were doing. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah, but I think I don't know. I feel like he's played well, similar to Carson Wentz. I think Carson Wentz has played well this year, given the circumstances. I do hope that Detroit learned their lesson when they fired Jim Caldwell. I think rather abruptly. and give Dan Campbell the opportunity to really ride this out. I think when you look at some of the perennial franchises that are good, there's not a bunch of coaching turnover. And I feel like, I don't know if it's the Instagram microwave era, but coaches like who's the Jacksonville not the Cincinnati
Urban?
coach.
Cincinnati.
Marvin Lewis. Like
yeah.
he was there for a long time. He made them competitive. They didn't necessarily win playoff games, but there's something to allowing a coach to be there, establish a culture, establish a rapport with not only the players, but also with the city.
Right.
And so I think if you can allow that to happen in more cases and stop trying to fire everybody 2 years into these 5 and 6 year deals, I think it'll go a long way. So I definitely think he will go get the type of players that he thinks will fit. And I think Detroit is in a position, especially if Aaron Rodgers leaves that division, the division's wide open.
It really is.
I don't think there's any team that with Aaron Rodgers gone, you say they're definitively the best team. And we don't even know if Kirk Cousins is going to be there. So that division could be definitely up for grabs in the next year or two. And I think Detroit can position themselves to really make a run for it if they play their cards right.
Right. And depending on the Bears, like you might completely blow up everything. So it's just Justin Fields and Keelan Mond. But I will say this, though. I think Minnesota is a lot closer than people think to taking over the division, just because you already have Dalvin, Justin, Jefferson, and you have Adam Thielen. As long as you get rid of Cousins, and I like Cousins, I just think he's Russell Westbrook of the NFL to a sense of your stat padding, but you're not going to win a championship anytime soon. And that's my thing with Kirk.
He was Tony Romo. That's what I felt like.
Yeah, it really is. So I think I like Keelan Mond. I don't know if he's going to be legit, but it's definitely something that I think they're going to experiment with for a little bit. But yeah, that was weird. But Uber just said my ride is coming, but I didn't order one. But it's weirdo.
Do I need to know something, Mike?
Who's coming where?
But do you think? So I guess my issue, and he's a Pro Bowler this year, so shout out to him. I have a lot of the same questions about Dalvin Cook. Like I think he's phenomenally talented.
Oh, he's not there long term. No, he's not going to be there.
How many games is he going to play? And I think they might have already paid him, but if they haven't, I just you got to bring somebody else in. And I think Thielen is still playing, but I think you might get 2 more years of elite play out of him. I think he's almost like Julio at this point, where he was a phenomenal talent, but
I see him like
not there no more.
I see him like Zeke. I think you're going to bring in your Pollard, and then you're going to do it like that. Because you like Zeke still, but you still bring in Pollard just in case, and you could still kind of play them both at the same time. With Dalvin, it's one of those situations like he is giving you 200 plus yards a game at times. So you definitely do keep him still in the mix, but you don't rely on him being your every down back, because going into the season, it's like Derrick Rose on the Knicks. Like, okay, you are our number 1 point guard, but you're not healthy enough for us to tell everyone that you're starting every single night. You're going to get the minutes, but you're not starting. And that's really how I think they're going to go about it, or they should.
And Derrick Rose is going to be out 8 weeks after ankle surgery.
Dang, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it just got announced not so long ago. So what I want to say though is, one thing we're going to have to pay attention to is this off season is what's going on Cook in this lawsuit and that whole situation, because they're
into it, but I didn't get a chance to read everything. So
she filed a police report because I think he said he hit her, of course.
And then she beat ass is what I heard.
And so then he filed and said
that she beat his ass.
She did it.
Right.
So it's he say she say type of situation.
I have nothing to say. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm saying sometimes people need to get shook. I'm not saying every time, but but I'm just saying. So, but that's something, like I said, that's something that you have to think about.
Right.
When you look into it. Yeah. No, and I hope he isn't in trouble. I hope every player that go,
Right.
you hear these stories. I hope that they didn't go through it. I hope they didn't do it. Whatever the case may be.
Right. You always hope the best for everyone, but there are people who
Yeah.
are just, going through it.
100%.
So, I don't know the whole situation, and like I said, but that is a story to look out for because, Roger is quick to suspend you.
Unless you're white.
Well, he's no.
Oh yeah, I'll say that.
No.
White guys just get away with it.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
he got Brady.
Unless you're white, okay. Well, he did get
Yeah,
Brady.
unless you're white.
Well, he did get Brady. I mean,
Oh,
Joe.
what's Big Ben
There
doing?
we go. Hey,
My other white guy.
Great success.
Didn't mean to do that.
Great success.
Yeah, there's three, and Ricky said there's three sides to every story. Her story, her side, the truth is likely somewhere in between,
No.
and that's what we understand that. Like that's why I said it's just something. It's going to be a story for us to pay attention to further on into the Vikings next season because we don't know. Not saying
further,
is he going to be there? Because like I said, Roger can suspend his ass at least.
Right.
3 or 4 games, and so that's something, and that could make a game changer for anybody, for the Bears. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of hard to come back from. The Bear, Mike Nagy might be gone. I'm just saying. I got no, Mike.
You really want the episode to go off the rails by bringing up Fire Nagy and the Bears again? We know what happened last time Mike got on camera.
Definitely Fire Nagy, but it's going to be a dark time for a very long time. I don't think this is, not to get off topic, big fix it to not being a full-blown rebuild was Chris Godwin, and he decided to kill all my hopes and dreams of signing Chris Godwin. So I'm back at square one of just, like I said in the chat, grab Justin Fields, grab David Montgomery, Roquan Smith, set them aside in the parking lot, then lock the doors, put everyone else inside, and burn it all down. And then move on from there. Go to Arlington Heights and do your little thing. And that's my plan.
Is that your plan? Okay.
It is. I like Darnell Mooney too. I'll let him go.
I was like Darnell Mooney was like brand new, fresh there.
Yeah, he's cool. He's chilling with me. A little inconsistent, but he's chilling.
You got quarterback situations, you'll figure it out. But we'll go on to Tampa. Speaking of Godwin, poor Godwin is going to miss the season and in playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, Fournette is banged up.
Evans is banged.
Evans is banged up.
Gronk's been banged before the season even started.
Gronk is a walking banged up stick. Off topic, I don't know how anybody listens to Gronk talk because he irks the shit out of me.
I do.
He irks. But
why? He's like a kid. He's just like chilling.
No, it's his voice. It's the sound of his voice. It's the actual
he's just
that
living.
commercial. That commercial. I felt like I'm watching Bayside.
Oh, the military commercial?
That military commercial?
Yeah, that one's
yeah.
I don't like them.
That one's really bad.
It's bad.
I'm special, and I was like...
Yeah, and then every time I hear it, I say special ed. That's every time I say
that's
it.
how that's when I was like, is that what we're talking about? Was that the joke they were trying to make? But I was like, all right, I'm going to hope they meant special talent.
Yes.
But I know they didn't.
Those are all.
Yeah. Awful.
I'm special.
Oh,
cringe.
Yeah, those irk me. But the question was, is Tampa in trouble?
Big time.
I don't think they make it.
Make it where?
After, I don't know if they'll make it past the second round.
It's possible. It depends who you play.
It depends on who you play, but if you got the right defense and you don't have. And if AB comes back,
it would have been COVID.
But
I'm just saying he's not vaccinated.
No, he got vaccinated.
He got vaccinated.
Yeah, I bet he did, right? I bet he did. Hey, Ray, did you see it? Is there a video of it?
No, he did it. He did it. His lawyer said it, so you know it's true.
I know that, dog.
His lawyer said it, so you know it's true.
Oh, his lawyer said it, so it happened. Yeah, my lawyer said it.
I'm just saying, Tom Brady showed up at his house and they went together because, Tom Brady beat his ass because he's the whole reason he's there. And I know Tom had a whole story. You ain't finna F up my name. and you effed it up. And you effed it up. Like, oh, we going together. You holding my hand.
but what is his lawyer supposed to say? Oh no, he didn't do it.
Don't say nothing. Don't lie. You already lied. Why are you going? You're going to double down on your lie?
Yes.
You already lied?
Yes. Yes.
No. He got vaccinated because I think to L's point, they knew we're going to need you. The way out of this is, well, I did get vaccinated, but I lied. How that just went away, apparently it's a federal offense. I don't know. But it's not really my job to prosecute another man. But no, I think Tampa Bay's fine.
I let him live his life.
Because of these next 3 weeks, they will get off to rest up the players that they don't really need. I think that's going to go a long way. They don't have to rush Evans or Fournette back. I think it'll get Ronald Jones and some of these other guys some playing time, which I think is important. I think we saw that. And we see that in basketball a lot when you have players out and players get a chance to play and then they come back in the playoffs. There's some rapport there. They're used to playing. So I think it actually can be a benefit because the rest of the schedule is so weak that they can kind of back into the playoffs, go 12-5 or whatever, maybe 13-4, and I think they'll be just fine. So I'm not worried. As long as we got Tom Brady back there taking the snaps, Gronk will get healthy. He will figure it out between now and the playoffs of what to do to win. And their first-round opponent could fool around and be the Eagles or, somebody that shouldn't really be there.
Right.
So depending on how that goes, I think they'll be fine.
Yeah.
Well, I think the biggest issue that people aren't talking about right now is Tom Brady's on pace to set the attempts record for any NFL season that Matt Stafford has. Like, this is a team that is dependent on his arm all season. And now what you're doing is you're taking away his favorite target in Chris Godwin, who had the second most catches in the league. You have a Rob Gronkowski who seems to, as dominant as he was coming back from that injury. Now he doesn't have the focus to catch the ball. So now you're going to rely on a beat up Mike Evans and wide receivers. And trust me, as a New England fan, if Tom Brady doesn't like the way the guy is running a route or catching the ball, he'll just shut him out. The problem is when Godwin is out and when you have Evans who could possibly be limited the rest of the season, then guess what? You don't have those options anymore. So you can't just all of a sudden turn around and hand it to Ronald Jones, who actually looked good at times in that game, even though they lost when Fournette went out. So now you have Fournette who's banged up. Now you have to depend on Ronald Jones, who seems to be in Bruce Arians' doghouse. Again, do I think that their schedule allows them to stay in the first 3 seeds? Sure. They're probably going to play the second wild card is the way it's looking right now. But like El said, could they be out in the second round? Absolutely. Like, they were the luckiest team last year when it came to injuries. They were the luckiest team when it came to injuries. This year, they're not having such luck. We've talked all season about their defensive backfield, missing players and having issues. And we all know this. The AB situation and the defensive back that was with him, I'm sorry, his name is escaping me right now. It's Mike. Is it Mike Davis? Not Mike Davis. I'm sorry. But
it doesn't matter. We know what you're talking about.
Yeah. But whoever it is, those players, the only reason that they're still playing this season is because they lied initially with the vaccine card, and then after that, they did get vaccinated. That is the only reason the NFL didn't suspend them.
I just want to see the group chat of the guys who lied about the vaccine.
I don't.
It's Mike Edwards.
Thank you, Mike Edwards. I'm sorry.
I want to see the group chat of who started the group chat. Was it AB like, hey guys, I got an idea?
AB definitely started it because he was already reaching out to his trainer or cook or whatever that dude's name was for it. So I think there's no surprise there. I think
that's some BRTCH shit. I'm sorry. I just don't like the chef, cook, whoever right at their mouth. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you.
No, what do you mean? You
don't
divulge your secrets. You don't go pillow talking to somebody and they do them dirty and then expect them to hold you down.
And that I agree. I just don't like.
What was
is it so many? There were so many different things. Like You know what I'm saying? If you don't pay me, say that from when he didn't pay you, from the moment he didn't pay you. You know what I'm saying? Like,
That's not how this
don't
works.
do it.
I keep
Don't
asking
do
you, hey, when you gonna give me my money? When you gonna give me my money? When you gonna give me my money? Oh, you ain't gonna give me my money? And we've seen AB act out. At some
we
point,
all know.
AB was probably like, man, I ain't giving you no money. Go kick rocks. And probably a more flagrant tone. And he said, all right, bet. That's how you want to carry it? I got you. Now you can lose 3 game checks when you could have just paid me the 10 grand.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I understand everybody's calling AB an asshole, but at the same time, like, what did y'all know who AB is? And Ricky, I will say, you're really more calling him an asshole because he's not on your team anymore. Like, the Steelers are the Steelers look like hurt garbage without him.
Y'all replaced AB with AB Jr. and Claypool, and I just hope y'all realize that.
And I don't want to say that. I'm hoping not. I hope not.
All the
I hope
talent in
not,
the
'cause
world, but that kid is just getting slandered by his team.
You forget they didn't replace him with Claypool. They thought they were replacing him with Juju.
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
They already replaced Juju. It went AB. All right, let's try Juju. Okay, Juju's a problem. Okay, let's try.
But that was the
Claypool.
thing. Remember, Juju was named like team captain or team MVP or whatever it was. Like he was the man, and then he thought he was the man, so he started Corvetting all around. And now,
dancing. And don't forget the dance.
On a 1-year deal and probably won't be back.
But the problem wasn't that Juju was an issue in the locker room. The problem was Juju wasn't any good on the field.
Right.
Like Juju, anytime that you play with a great wide receiver, and let's not mistake it, AB, for as much of a dinkus as he is a great wide receiver. He is a Hall of Fame wide receiver, clearly. But when you play next to those guys, you look better as a number 2.
Right.
Like you just do. But when you have the pressure of a number 1, and listen, I was the first one who said everybody's excited about Juju. I'm like, he's not a number 1. We've seen this so many times. Calvin Ridley had the ability to play second fiddle to Julio Jones. Now, he looked good as the number 1 in the short period of time he was this year when Julio left. But you can't just expect a number 2 to be a number 1. Right. Wes Walker was great because he had Randy Moss.
I'm really curious about more of Godwin, and I was really curious to see if Godwin went to a new team. It's really unfortunate he tore his ACL because I was always curious. I know Mike Evans is a number 1. He can be a number 1. But I was curious to see if Godwin can truly be a number 1 on a different team. And that was where I was more curious about. But now, I guess we'll never really know. But
yeah, you will. He's going to get paid, Mike. He's going to get paid in the offseason. ACLs
are not. Well, it's a conversation we won't be able to have till like 2023.
I'm not so sure. Nick Bosa last year tore his ACL, and right now for the 49ers, he's got 15 sacks. Like, if not for some other players, he's in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year, not just Comeback Player of the Year.
Right, so he tore it very early on in the season, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, so let's say Godwin signs a 4-year deal and he starts on PUP. He misses the first 6 games. If you got a number 1 receiver, you're still going to sign that guy. If you're the Bears, if you're one of these other teams, if you're Houston or whatever, you're going to go out and sign a guy like this. I don't think Godwin's going to get left on the scrap heap next year.
I don't think he is either. I just mean if he's going to go somewhere, it's going to be a team, I think, like Jacksonville or a team like the Texans or something along that line to where they're willing to take a chance on him and give him that money. But I don't see the New England Patriots going out there and getting Chris Godwin or someone like the Chicago Bears when they're in a rebuild mode and they don't need to take a chance on Chris Godwin. So I just think there's a big chance right now of just having to wait and see if Chris Godwin can be a number 1. Because if he's not right away, you just tore your ACL. So I'm not going to hold that against you.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but
I don't think the Bears are in rebuild mode, by the way.
Dude,
if I'm Chris Godwin, I think the blessing in all this is AB messing up because I think AB was in line to get paid. Yep. And after this COVID thing, I think he put himself in position to be on another 1-year deal.
Right.
I don't think it would be out of the realm of possibility for Tampa Bay to franchise Godwin again. That would be the most guaranteed money he'd get next year, and then you give him a chance to rehab and come back. Right. Because he is Brady's favorite target.
Right. I do.
The one thing,
I think he stays without a doubt for just a year.
Right. Joe, to your point though, I think you're underestimating the quarterback of Tampa Bay. Yeah, Godwin was his favorite target, but Tom Brady has picked and chose favorite targets all his career.
Right. Especially this season. Sometimes it's Gronk, sometimes it's Evans, sometimes it's
last year. Scotty Miller was getting a lot of run. And
Scotty Miller was his go-to.
Not
And
this
then
year.
AB
God,
showed
he's been
up.
banged up.
But and so that I think that's the point, that now that he's back, Perriman will come back. He was a COVID issue. I think there's still a lot of options there in Tampa that I wouldn't be so concerned about somebody that can work the middle of the field. I think between Gronk and Miller, and if you get Fournette back, or I think if they had another pass catching running back, I think they'll be okay in the medium range, which is what they like to do.
I just again, I love Tom Brady, 6 Super Bowls for my New England Patriots, but he's 44 years old and he's going to set the NFL record for pass attempts. Like, eventually it catches up to you. Football is a game of attrition, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are in the second year of the same 22 starters, and it is not working the way that it did last year. And eventually that arm is going to get tired. And I just don't think that they're going to go to a team that's going to run the ball 35 times a game in these last 3 weeks. I just don't see it.
So you think Tom Brady's arms about to fall off a cliff after all this time?
I'm just saying, if they have to go travel to the cold, he even said, he's like, I'm not moving back to the north. Like, it's cold. Like,
it's one thing to live there. It's another thing to play there. He's played there all his career.
Right.
He had most trouble when he used to have to go to Miami at the end of the year when it was hot.
Yeah.
Well,
it's funny, Ricky mad again at Le'Veon going there again. Another Steeler, not on your team.
Outside of going to Green Bay, he wouldn't have to go anywhere else cold.
Yeah.
LA,
Green Bay's got the number 1 seed right
indoors and warm.
Yeah. Green Bay's got the number 1 seed right now, and he did it last year, but he also threw 2-3 interceptions in that game. Washington was chilly. He threw 3 interceptions in that game. I mean, let's not forget that defense took a huge step forward in the playoffs last year. Like, the reason they made it and won the Super Bowl was not because Tom Brady and that offense. It was literally because of that defense playing lights out.
And Aaron not going for that touchdown that he could have just walked in. He could have just, skedaddled into the end zone. But that's here nor there. He worked out real well. Things. Yeah, there you go. That's the best way to describe it, Ray. He worked out real well in Baltimore, didn't he? I'm saying you can't put somebody everywhere and think they're going to fit that team's scheme. He's a free agent. And it doesn't matter. He's not hurt for money unless he spent it wildly. He's not hurt for money. And now he's a Super Bowl champion. And your team, none of our team, you know what I'm saying, unless you're a New England Patriots fan, the Steelers can't say they've been a champion. Me and Ray's team, anybody from the NFC East can't say they, a champion for the longest. So I'm saying you could talk about him, but more likely you're just more mad because he didn't want to play for your squad that last season, and he held his happy ass out until he got traded.
All I know is the Jets are still paying him.
And I bet you, and I have a strong feeling that the Steelers were still paying him to probably last season.
Probably.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we were still paying Dez for how they did him. So it's like, I bet you that contract, they were still paying him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, remember, he left in free agency to the Jets. That was the big deal, is he went to free agency. They didn't trade him to the Jets, and he didn't get the money he wanted. The reason he was counting against the Jets cap is because of the way they structured that deal. I mean, he never made back from sitting out that season in Pittsburgh. But Le'Veon was just somebody who ran the right way with the right offensive line in front of him. And as soon as he was taken away from that, it's like a jump shooter who finds his favorite spot on the floor. And as long as he gets to that spot, he's going to hit 7 out of 10 buckets. Yeah. But as soon as he's forced off that spot, he's just not the same player.
I don't even think it was that. I think it was taking a year off and betting on yourself is perfectly fine, but you lose that second gear. And in the NFL, once you take that year off or you have that catastrophic injury, it's very quick to lose that second gear that differs you from a regular person to an NFL caliber player. And I think he just lost that second gear. Like, you could see he's still hitting those same holes. He just doesn't have that gear that pushes through these linebackers. That's his problem.
I think we see that with Zeke too. So it happened.
Zeke did the same thing. Zeke took a lot less of time off. But he missed that entire training camp. He missed a little bit of the season, and you pay for that.
He's now a journeyman. Le'Veon Bell is now a journeyman. Like I said, whatever you like it or not, he's still going to get paid. It doesn't matter how many teams he's going to go to afterwards. Like we said, that injury did not help. The injury it has definitely affected his game. And how many running backs have we seen that? Zeke is definitely a walking product of that after an injury or being banged up. You know what I'm saying? Like, or whatever the case may be. Do I think Le'Veon Bell was a cocky? I agree. He probably is very cocky. A jackass? Like, I don't know. That's everybody's opinion on who's a jackass.
I'm a jackass.
But to some, you probably are. Like to the person we were talking about earlier. We were talking about in the group chat. You probably were. You probably
Evan,
were.
if you're watching, I apologize.
Yeah. But I'm saying it's just like I said, everybody's different. But I just think
jackass.
he's still obviously there's still need for him. It doesn't matter when they need him, they still need Le'Veon Bell. Like, and every time I said, okay, you know what, the team's gonna probably pick him up because of an injury. Well, here we are.
Right.
But I think that's the other piece. I don't think they really brought him in to run the ball. I think they have Ronald Jones to run the ball. They brought him in because he can catch the ball. Right. And so if he can run the routes, if he can catch the swing passes and things like that, I think that's what they're mostly going to utilize him, similar to what Arizona's doing with Connor right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that if it's 3rd and 1 in the fourth quarter, I don't think he's going to be the guy in the game to get the ball. I think that's going to go to Ronald Jones. But if it's those passing downs, if it's that hurry up offense, his hands have been sure throughout the majority of his career. He hangs on to the football. He's never really been a big fumbler. So I think there'll be value for him.
I put you on profanity restrictions. I would take Adrian Peterson any day over any of these younger backs in the game now. He has managed to take a great care of his body, and that's why he's still playing.
What? Ricky, go home, go sleep.
No, Rick, I want to address that real quick. The problem with your premises is Adrian Peterson is a guy who's taken incredible care of his body, which is absolutely true. And I'm sure if you line T.O. next up to a third of the receivers in the league, it looks like T.O. should still be able to play. There's a difference between looking good and playing good. The difference is Adrian Peterson looks good, but as Mike said earlier, when you lose that half a step, Adrian Peterson was the guy who, the reason they called him AD, they didn't call him AP. Stop that. It was AD. It was all day because he could run and run and run all day. You know what Adrian Peterson can't do right now is run all day.
Because his body is more beaten than his kid, and that's the true fact about life. Is karma.
Really.
Karma's a horrible thing.
Really,
karma's a horrible
thing.
Mike. What happened?
No. What we're not going to do is no.
Here we are having a nice conversation about.
Right, here you go. How many kids you got, Mike?
Man,
0.
Or how many I got?
How many you got that live in your house that you got to discipline when they don't be listening?
I'm just saying. I defended him, but
he has a little sister. That's all he got.
After he said that, I went out and got me a Gucci belt just to check it out.
Hey, real talk though, he ain't lying. I ain't lying it.
Even Jim said it, Mike. But they said for president, no.
Dude, I swear to God, if I was president, life would be so much smoother.
Yeah, and no, Father Time is always defeated. That's Dre's line. My homeboy Dre that does my show with me. He's very undefeated. Like he is coming for AP. Like he's coming for.
Hey, Tom Brady and LeBron James keeping that man at bay.
Not
Tom Brady. Not Tom Brady has looked. I still want to know what fountain they used.
Tom Brady ain't do. He's still the MVP.
No, he's not.
What?
He's still in the talks.
And that's our last topic for the night.
Then I'll hold my opinion.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Wait, we're going to talk about MVPs, and that was our last conversation.
Oh yeah, we can definitely get into that. I've been consistent in that, so I would love to hear you.
MVP was not our last topic.
I thought it was.
Mike, Silencio.
I'm so sorry. Jim, I like Jim. Don't make me feel differently about you.
Yes. Rodgers is still an MVP.
Oh,
Don't get me wrong. That was one of the questions that actually this man Joe asked. Because if Jonathan Taylor doesn't win MVP, which we know he more likely will not, who will take a
racist.
non, like, who would you take as a non QB? And I think we said that. But we all know we've already done that question, like who's did it as a non QB who would win it for you. But
Well, no, my question, El, sorry, my question was actually if Jonathan Taylor finishes out this season and he doesn't win MVP, what's it going to take in the future for a
yeah,
non-quarterback to win it?
Jesus and walks on water across and parts
Pretty
the
much.
Red Sea again, and and he catches and he turns the Red Sea into wine so we can drink it fruitfully. I don't know, like seriously, there's a lot. Go ahead, Mike. Since you know, what is it's going to take?
And hey, this is not to make it sound bad. This is gonna sound bad. This is gonna sound
It's
bad.
here we
I'm not
go.
gonna lie to you. Like Ray's eyes are gonna come up at me very quickly. But it's just me being real because I think it is a media-driven award. So
I'm
what I'm
scared.
saying is to have a white wide receiver in Cooper Kupp breaching 2,000 yards and 20 touchdowns. I think that does it. I think it gets the votes because they slander. I think the award itself is positionally racist. If it is not a quarterback, you are not giving them the award. And we have seen plenty of black and other ethnicities of people who deserve this award, and it doesn't go to them. And I find that very interesting. So if it's logging off, you ever have that teacher that grabs your shoulder and they're just like, I'm gonna need you to log off for me.
That's me right now. It's like,
I'm
what are
just
you gonna
saying,
say? But I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
Could do it.
Okay. Ray, if you want to go first, go ahead, because I've got some stuff to address with Mike.
Joe, because I think you guys know where I stand, but I think, Mike, I might surprise you with my response to you.
I'm valid, bro. I'm valid.
But Joe, go ahead. I'll let you go because I think you want to talk Jonathan Taylor, anti-Brady or something you got going. So I'll let you do that.
Okay, first I want to address what Mike said. Lamar Jackson did win the MVP. There's not many ethnicities outside of white and black who do play in the NFL, to be fair. So it's not like there's a whole smorgasbord of
He said
people.
racist, but he meant by position.
He meant by position. That's what he said, racist
listen,
position.
I get the point that he's making. But again, Lamar Jackson won the award just a few years ago. So it's just one of those things. So I agree with what you're saying. It's the prototypical quarterback that wins the MVP. That's more than fair enough to say, and I think it's absolutely valid. But again, the last non-quarterback to win it was Adrian Peterson, who went over 2,000 yards. But before that, we saw Chris Johnson go over 2,000 yards, didn't get the MVP. Last year, we saw Derrick Henry have one of the greatest seasons of running back of all time. He finished fourth in the MVP.
And why is that, Jim? Or Joe?
What's that?
Why is that?
Okay. Well, what I'm saying is
that? What color are all of those people, Joe?
Listen.
I'm just saying, Joe. If it was a white run, if it was Christian McCaffrey, it's a different conversation. No.
I think it is a bit of a different conversation, but I also think it's a different conversation because of the way that he plays. But that's a whole different argument.
Joe.
What I think, I'm going to answer El's question here. What I think it would take for a non-quarterback to win the MVP would be somebody who runs for 2,000 yards and gets 3,000 total yards in the league, receiving stuff like that. It would take a Herculean effort. So somebody like Christian McCaffrey, who catches a lot of balls, somebody like a Joe Mixon or something like that, somebody who would just have to have like an insane amount of touches. They'd have to have a high yards per average carry because they couldn't have a ton of carries, and they'd have to have a bunch of catches. I actually think you're more likely to see a defensive player win. I think with the prevalization of the passing game, we see like Micah Parsons come in and get all these sacks. I think if somebody were to get like 25 sacks in a season, that could put them in the MVP conversation, where they're just blowing away the all-time record in a season, especially depending on who the player is. If they're a young player, I actually think we're going to start to see, and Lamar Jackson did this, where you're going to start to see some of these younger players be considered. Before it was, you had to be in the league a while to get this consideration. Now these guys are coming in. It's like, hey, Lamar Jackson's taking the league by storm. MVP. I mean, people are talking about Micah Parsons being Defensive Player of the Year. I personally don't think he is, but there will be some people who are going to vote for him if he keeps it this way. Ray, you're raising your hand. Elle, you're raising your hand. I disagree with you, but that Mike, you're raising it. Okay, well, my hands are down. So I'm just saying, there's those discussions being had.
Why your hands are down, Joe?
That's a whole
Shut
story.
up, Mike.
And real quick, and then I will be quiet.
Is TJ Watt gonna win the
So,
award this year?
I don't know. Maybe Myles Garrett, who I voted for.
Miles Garrett.
So-
I see Miles Garrett winning it. I don't think he's going to win Defensive Player of the Year, but he'll win definitely rookie. I'm just
Okay.
waiting for him to break this rookie record. But go ahead,
Yeah.
my bad.
But I want to address Ray real quick, and then I will be quiet so Ray can yell at me some. Tom Brady is not the runaway MVP. Is he in the conversation? He absolutely is in the conversation. I think your top 5 right now look like Rodgers, Brady, Taylor, Cup, and then insert 5th player right here. I think it's a 4-man race right now. It is the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, because no matter who wins, the NFL's head is going to explode. Because if it's
Right.
Brady, it's a 44-year-old winning it. If it's Aaron Rodgers, we have the thing where half the league doesn't like him, or half the
I don't
fans
think
in the
like
league don't like him.
respectfully, not to cut you off, but like if you missed a couple games, I don't think you can.
He missed one game.
Right, but I think because Tom's
missed
doing
10.
what Tom's doing, you can't afford that.
Tom didn't play against the Saints. And if he did, he put up 0 points. So, again, he might as well have
Did play against the Saints. Jim Cross knows.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Oh, Jim, okay. So, anyway, if Jonathan Taylor wins it, then people will yell, as much as he's deserving, why didn't Derrick Henry get the love last year? And, of course, if, like Mike said, if Cooper Kupp were to win it, you're talking about a white wide receiver. Is he more scheme than whatever? That's fine. So, again, the NFL's head is going to explode anyway. Aaron Rodgers right now is in the driver's seat. He has a better record. He has better stats. Again, I completely understand why Brady and him are neck and neck, but this is not Tom Brady's award to win. It is his award to chase down.
I just felt like, personally, like this is just me speaking out loud before Ray goes, when Justin Jefferson was doing what he was doing, which is very similar numbers to Cooper Kupp, no one was saying Justin Jefferson should be in the MVP conversation, but all of a sudden Cooper Kupp should be. No, I hear you, Joe. But like when you look at social media, when you look at ESPN, no one's talking about Justin Jefferson from that standard, and he has the same exact numbers, if not duplicate numbers to Cooper Kupp. And now you're saying, oh, Cooper Kupp's a generational wide receiver, when no, he's not, because even when he was in the Super Bowl just a couple years ago, no one was saying that. So I just found that very interesting.
I think Ricky doesn't like nobody but me. I'm just going to throw that out there.
I don't like
I love
Ricky.
you, Ricky. I love Ricky. I
That's
love
the
you,
truth,
Ricky.
Ricky. I don't like you.
Whatever. I like Ricky. He's
I like
one of my
Ricky.
listeners. But yeah, no, but he doesn't like nobody. That's right. I came
And that's
to.
okay, Rick.
So I tried to take mental notes to address everyone here.
Ray, I got points. You know I'm valid.
I think the thing that's missing in a lot of the arguments I heard is breaking records and winning. And I think Jonathan Taylor has an uphill battle with winning. His team's still 8-6.
Right. They were 2-5 at one point. Like
that's not wow stuff. Yeah, he's on a great run, but the first half of the year, no one cared about Jonathan Taylor because Derrick Henry was the man and was exponentially producing at a better level. Right. So I think his battle is just significantly uphill. My issue or my debate with Aaron Rodgers would be, yes, his team is winning, but his division is absolutely trash, and he's had arguably the best receiver in the league or top 2 all year, as well as that defense has played well. He's had probably the most help of anybody in this discussion, and they've consistently been there. And he won it last year. So I think there's some of that voter fatigue that typically sets in when you have somebody who did just win it last year. And then we saw what he did in the playoffs. That's going to stick in the back of some voters' minds. So that leaves us to me, to Brady and Kupp. If Kupp finishes the year at this pace, and even though there's an extra game, he starts breaking records or threatening records, and he definitely clears the Triple Crown with the touchdowns. And I think that's the other part for the running backs that was missed is the touchdown amount. When LT won it, I think he had like 20 touchdowns that year. He had an absurd amount of touchdowns, and some of that was receiving and passing, but LaDainian had a bunch of touchdowns to go with it. Sean Alexander, when he won it, he was one of the first people to go over that 2,000 mark. And I think had Aaron Rodgers not did what he did last year, I think a lot of people would have wanted to vote for Derrick Henry, but Rodgers put up those absurd numbers, and his team record was really good. I think the reason Brady's keeping it close, and it's even in a debate between him and Kupp, is because the record just isn't there. If they were 13 and something, 14 and something, I think it's a different conversation. But I think they're at what 10-5,
10-4.
10-4. Then that leads you back, and he has a really bad loss on his resume right now with that shutout against New Orleans, who isn't that great, although they've had his number. I think, and I'm just guessing here, I think they're going to throw the ball a ton these next 3 weeks because the teams they're playing against suck. They don't have a definitive running game anyway. I could easily see Brady averaging 300, 350 over these next couple of games. If they get in the red zone, they're throwing the ball. I could see him really boosting his numbers significantly. And if they can sneak into that 2 seed, I think it's done. If they finish higher than the Rams do, for me, it's hard to give Kupp the MVP also because that team just has so many big names. Yes, Kupp has great numbers, but you're going to look at the defense with Aaron Donald. You're going to have Matthew Stafford. You're going to have Odell there. You got a bunch of names that allows him to do his job, and he plays on the inside. He's not getting the best corner night in, night out. No best corners are following him because he's not playing outside the numbers. I think narrative matters. So for those reasons, I think Tom Brady, unless he just spits the bit here in the next couple games, I think he's the answer. If maybe the Colts can pass the Titans and win that division on the back of Jonathan Stewart like he did last week, where that big run closed out the Patriots, he has maybe 1 or 2 or more of those situations. I think you can have that argument with him. But right now at 1,500 yards, that's just not enough. He needs James Conner-like touchdowns, and he needs to be a lot closer to the 2,000-yard mark for him to get real consideration, in my opinion.
Right.
I like the breakdown. I like everybody's opinion. Like seriously, I don't think none of you are wrong, like whatsoever. And
Like this.
I just really think that Ron is going to.
You would think I'm wrong, Joe.
This is Ron's to grasp and run away with. You know, he has a lot riding on him. But yeah, whatever you want to bet cash, Tony, let me know. I'll give you the field against Rodgers. Yeah, I think it's Ron's to win. I just don't see anybody beating him right now, unless something like he just did something stupidly drastic. Like I don't even know what he could probably do right now.
Is there a chance that we could have co-MVPs? We've had this before with Steve McNair and Peyton Manning. If enough people hold the vaccine stuff against Rodgers and enough people give credit to Brady for being 44 years old, could we see a split in votes where we end up in a tie? I think it's actually possible.
If I see another
it could be
cover with 2 quarterbacks on it, I'm going to be very upset.
That would be the ultimate if Brady and Rodgers were to split the MVP. Just from a personality, competitive. I don't think Tom Brady wants that award. Tom Brady will give that award away if he is named co-MVP with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah,
but could you guys see what is it? 50? I think it's 50 Associated Press voters, right?
Right.
So let's say 22 for Rodgers, 22 for Brady, and then the other 6 votes are between Taylor and Kupp.
Right. But Joe, do you think that's when you would start to actually see maybe votes are going into the playoffs for the very first time? Because then you would have to, if it's Brady and Rodgers.
I hate that.
You have to do it like that.
I hate that.
But who is it more of a slap in the face to? Is it Rodgers or Brady?
Brady.
Again, there's still 3 weeks left.
I feel like it's Rodgers. Like that's just my opinion.
It's Rodgers.
So that's where I love this. That was a great That was a great conversation, like question and great conversation. I am going to move on to just one more topic. We started a little bit late, and I don't want to keep everybody here.
I was here on time. I'm not sorry for anything.
Hey, did you get your Uber?
No, but usually I am saying sorry, but not today.
Did you get your Uber?
Dude, I don't even know what that was. I got a girl now too. I can't be having random
Ubers. Like we gotta talk about this.
If it ain't my girl, I ain't letting you in. Keeping it a stack. Like I don't know, y'all.
I'll get us back online.
Weird.
With
my farmersonly.com friend.
I'm done with
You know
you.
about that
Or
life.
hood. You should go to the hood only because that's where you at. You're probably
Hood
right there.
only. I'm good.
The
That's how you
hood
get
only.
robbed. That's how
Hood
you get
only.
robbed. All of that shit is just back doors.
Bears fans were going to start a website called losersonly.com, but it was already taken.
Yeah, I'm president of that shit.
Oh my God.
Fire Nagy.
What coaching candidate would you hire to help your franchise if you had control of your own franchise? And let me just say, they're reaching in these, like I've been reading some articles, and they're like reaching for old coaches, like they aren't in the league anymore. They're gonna come back into the league and coach. So like I'm love to hear who you guys would choose right now to coach.
Anybody
These are people
first?
that are not currently employed.
It could be. I'm not gonna. You could. I didn't ask Tony how he did it. Just go for it. Any coaching candidate would you hire? It don't have to be. I guess he didn't specify if they had to be currently coaching or not. He just said what. This was Tony's. Hope you're having fun on your date, by the way. Which coaching candidate would you have to help your franchise?
Oh, hell yeah, Tony. Do your thing, dog. Hell yeah.
But we're firing Freddie. I just want everybody to.
Oh, yeah, facts. But Tony, do your thing, dog. You feel me? Well, I'll let the gentlemen have their serious conversation, so I'll just get mine out of the way. Take a wooden chair right now for the Chicago Bears, and I'm completely fine with that. And carry on. Go anything. A brick wall, a wooden chair. Hand it the playbook, and we'll figure it out. That's all I ask.
Anybody and his last name better not be Nagy. That's where Mike is at right now.
I'll leave and I'll never come back. I will join the Spotlight Network. That's how deep I will take it. That is a personal attack. That is a personal attack.
Like, I don't know the whole story, so I guess I'll be in your inbox because I got a short, ugly story, and I know it wasn't true.
I don't even know it.
I don't even. I heard some BS story, and we'll talk about that some other time.
CC me. I want to be in on that.
Right? I guess we'll have it in the group chat. Right.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ray.
So if we're going for, I guess, just
wait, why is Ray going? He has one of the greatest coaches. What are we even talking about?
He doesn't.
He's got Bruce Arians.
You don't listen to the game, do you? Explain what's going on.
Ray is a Washington fan.
I'm not a Bucks fan.
He is. Wait, why are you riding Brady so much then? All right, go on. I forgot. I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry,
because
Ray.
It's amazing. I respect greatness. I don't know what
I'm sorry, Ray.
I know that position hasn't really ever been great in Chicago in a long time, but you still got to be able to recognize, greatness of what it is.
What's a quarterback?
So no, I think if we're just taking if all coaches are on the board and the NFL base, I think the guy in New England is the answer. I think he can scheme any kind of situation. He can have the greatest quarterback ever. He can have arguably one of the worst quarterbacks ever. He can have just a plethora of a bunch of nobodies and still be relevant. He continues to reinvent himself. I think most people expected him to take a back seat. The game against Buffalo where they threw it 3 times, I think is emblematic of that. I just think with any kind of help, Bill Belichick will find a way. And he doesn't get a lot of credit for being his offenses and things like that, but he figures it out. He does enough typically. And I don't even think he's getting enough credit this year because that offense is awful. If that offense was being coached by really anybody else, I don't think they have half as many wins as they do. Now, he's made it work. We've seen time and time again, people spend a ton of money in free agency, and it never pans out. New England, for the first time ever, spent a bunch of money in free agency, and a lot of their players are hitting. On top of that, he traded away arguably the best player on the team in Gilmore, who went to Carolina. And we don't hear about Gilmore anymore. But now J.C. Jackson basically replaced him and now is up for Defensive Player of the Year. He just constantly makes those kind of moves. Brady left. Gronk quit on him. and he found a way. He's made Hunter Henry look like he's still in almost an elite tight end, even though he was hurt at the beginning of the year.
Right.
So for current just coaches in general that are currently hired, if I had to pick a coach for 1 year or for even the foreseeable future, I'm definitely going Belichick.
Right.
I like that. I like that pick. Go for it, Joe.
I respect Ray's answer. I think what you were asking was basically coaches that, maybe assistants now, if you're, in Jacksonville, Chicago, places being hired. I don't want to speak out of turn.
No, just say no. Just
okay.
your franchise. Let's say if it's your franchise, what coach would you choose? Like you're the owner. You can bring in anybody. Who would you bring in?
Well, I'm gonna leave current coaches out of the list just because, again, Ray, I mean, Bill Belichick, yeah, you'd love to have him in your system. There's a couple assistants I'd want to really see. One in Chicago, particularly. Raheem Morris is somebody I think has a lot of respect around the league. I think he's somebody who's been an interim coach twice. He's a defensive coordinator right now for the Rams. I think when you look around the league, there's very few coaches respected. He's still a young enough man that he's going to relate to the players. He's not somebody who's been around the game. He's not in his 60s. He's not in his 70s where you could say time has passed him by. Again, I think he garners a lot of respect. I'd like to see him in Chicago. I think that's a great fit. In Jacksonville, one of the names that's been brought up a lot is Jim Caldwell, of course, the former coach of the Colts, former coach of the Lions. People forget he actually had back-to-back winning seasons and then was fired by the Lions for Matt Patricia. Ricky said Byron Leftwich. I mean, okay, I get it, but I still think he's a little too green to take over an organization. People forget when you take over a head coach of a position, you have then become the most important person in that organization. Yes, I say that over the starting quarterback because you have control over all 53. You have to put the assistants in the right positions. You have to put the players in the right positions. You have to be able to shield management from the on the field problems and vice versa. I think that's something that Ray talked about with Bill Belichick of really being able to juggle all these hats. And I'm not sure that's a problem that you see with college coaches coming into the pros, especially at an older age. If you're in your 50s or 60s and you come to the pros for the first time, like Urban Meyer, you don't know how to run an NFL franchise. You've never had experience doing it, and you're going to fail. We saw it with Spurrier. We saw it with Bobby Petrino. I mean, Petrino and Urban Meyer both got 13 games out of the league. I mean, no offense. All of us together for the ASAP network could go and assign people positions and make it 13 games in the NFL. I mean, come on, this is ridiculous. So those are two names on that I really were interested in was Jim Caldwell and Raheem Morris. Another one that's been talked about a lot is Brian Daboll. I think that's somebody who's going to get a lot of clout. What I'd actually like to see is I would like to see, Ricky says he got robbed in Detroit. A lot of people have brought that up. I would like to see like a coach like Raheem Morris go to Chicago to match up with Fields.
Oh my God, I would love
like
Raheem
to
Morris.
see them offer somebody like Bieniemy or somebody like Daboll to be the highest paid assistant coach in the league and then come in as the offensive coordinator to get that 1 year of just saying, listen, we understand that you've been successful in Buffalo. We understand you've been successful in Kansas City, but we want you to come here and work with our quarterback now. And then we can be the stepping stone for you to get your head coaching position. That's what I would like to see them do. But those are definitely two names that stuck out to me.
Stop pulling my leg, Joe.
I like Bieniemy. Like that was probably my pick, or even Bill Belichick like right now. Even though, like, I agree with Ray, I'm a big Bruce Arians fan too, and it's not even because of what he's doing down there in Tampa. It's what he is doing for women in sports down there in Tampa. He has
women specifically for sure.
Yeah, like he is. He's like helped so many women in the coaching game. It's crazy. So my love for like him was like. I was literally this close, like, you know what, effort, I'm about to jump on their bandwagon. And it wasn't even because, like I said, I'm a Tampa Bay fan. It's because of Bruce Arians and what he's done. I've always watched, like, his majority of his career. So, and it's that hat, it's that Kango hat that I always love for him to wear. But, there's some youngins out there. I don't want to say youngins, but, there's some people I'm willing to see what they can do once they finally hit the head coaching, like what Ray said last week. We've seen some offensive coordinators come out and look garbage as a head coach, but I'm willing to test the waters because I don't think we're going to have that many options next year. It kind of, even though I know that's not the question, but at the same time, we got to look forward. There's only one now. We right now we all know there's only one opening.
No,
There's going to be
two.
more than that.
Vegas and Jacksonville.
Well, Vegas. I'm sorry, there is two, but I know there's going to be more than that. But at the same time, is what's going to happen after that? We're going to have more than two, or are we going to only have these two? Chicago for Mike's sanity. I believe you. For Mike's sanity, I hope I pray that his team is one of them. But there's a couple other teams, and we could even do a hot seat. Just throw out some names and throw out some teams before we go and see, and let's just see if we're right. In a couple weeks.
Oh, sorry. Oh, no, I'm sorry.
I think we might have said it together, Joe. I seriously think that Seattle. I think
give me Pete.
He is in a. I think Pete Carroll is in the hot seat.
Give me Pete. I want Pete. I'll take Pete.
Yeah, I'll take Pete today.
Yeah.
I think the hard part.
If Ray's taking Pete, I want Ron.
You can have him.
I'll have him. He used to be a Bear. I'm perfectly fine with that.
We'll give him to you. Just give us like a 7th round pick. We don't care.
I'll give you my soul, Ray. I'll give you my soul
I guess my hesitation is it's hard. And the part that really sucks is when you see Shanahan and McVay doing great things around the NFL, and they were both on your staff in Washington. It still eats me up a bit. But I just think the hard part to really understand is when you have a coordinator like Bieniemy, and this is why I was upset he didn't get a job this last cycle. But I look at the Bieniemys and even the Leftwiches like I looked at Josh McDaniels. When you're playing with a phenomenal quarterback, I don't know how much credit to give you at your job. And Bieniemy's name's come up great now that he's had Mahomes for a couple of years. I don't know what happens when you send him to Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence and that dumpster fire of a team. It's just a different environment. And the same thing with Leftwich. If he was to go there, it's great when you got Tom there, but you couldn't get Jameis to stop throwing 30 picks. So I just it's tough when you have elite quarterbacks and your offensive coordinator to go into a position. I do like the Morris choice. I think he would have to hire a good offensive coordinator, but I do think he has the demeanor to be a leader of men, similar to almost how Herman Edwards was. Granted, Herm ran into some trouble down in college, but I think as a leader, I think his voice resonates. So I think you would have to get a good staff around him, but I definitely think he has the wherewithal to do the job.
Right.
But he would need to hire some coordinators because offensively, that's not his thing.
Right.
And Ray, who would you put on the hot seat?
Who would I put?
Ray. Say it, Ray. Say it, Ray. Urban's gone. You gotta say it, Ray.
Nagy's the obvious choice. I don't think that's the issue.
I held up 5 because I think there's 5 teams at minimum that will have openings next year.
Yeah,
but like you guys said, Pete, I don't think they need this goes back to
that including too?
Pete Carroll doesn't need to be fired. The team's not good.
Pete just needs an OC though. I think Pete needs to give up play calling.
I think he's been there. I think it's time for them to have a divorce. That's just where I'm at. I don't think it. Sometimes they're
he
just
has a really good culture, though. I think the culture is perfectly fine.
Right.
The problem is, though, is more of Pete Carroll isn't adjusting to the new world and the new era that is, ironically, what kind of he started in a sense of Russell Wilson being a mobile quarterback, and he isn't really adjusting to it from that perspective of a running back passing the ball. So I look at it like that, and anyways,
what was that?
Relationship
I don't want
to never get into one. But anyways, It's one of those things though where I definitely do think that having Rashad Penny, having Adrian Peterson, and having guys like that, not guys who can, one, they can't really run the ball, and two, they can't catch the ball. So I think he definitely does need to step up his game from that perspective. But I like Pete Carroll and what he brings for the overall culture. I just think you need to bring in, if Seattle could pay, like Ray said earlier, or I think it was Joe, I forget, pay Eric Bieniemy to be an assistant coach, have him be the highest paid OC that there is, because he can help you instill that and help you catch up to the modern day era. And I think that's where Pete's lacking right now.
And
Marshawn Lynch.
And the other thing for Pete, because someone asked could they trade Wilson, they might have to trade Wilson, or they're going to have to trade. And this is where I'm going. This is where I'm going. More likely, it's not going to happen unless he waives. Of course, we know if he waives that trade clause. But they're strapped on money, like between paying Pete Carroll, the GM, and Russell. Somebody is not going. One of those three.
You move Russell. Russell's gone.
Are not going to be there. And so that's why I said it might be Pete or it might be Russell. Like one of those three. Don't be surprised if you see a big change, and it's because of money. They're very, very, very strapped. Even the running back position might be looking a little different in Seattle. But like I said, they're strapped. But so Joe, you said there was 5, and that's already including the 2 that's open.
Sure, but if you want to not include those, I can also give you 5.
No, because I'm curious. Because I got some more in my head. So
Okay.
I'm curious on where they are. So go for it.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll give you the 5 that are not included. So right now, as we know, Vegas and Jacksonville are included.
Mm-hmm.
So the 5 that I can give you that I believe are possible to open up or absolutely will open up. Number 1 is Minnesota. I think Zimmer's run his course. Number two is Fangio. I think he's done. Number 3 is Nagy in Chicago. I think that's an easy one. I think Carroll is tipsy. I think he's like right on that. We'll see. I think another one that you have to worry about is a one and done in Houston with David Culley. I think that he's going to get an opportunity because Davis Mills has played well and this whole Deshaun Watson situation is bad. But if they need to reset,
I wouldn't say played well.
What's that?
I wouldn't say played well, but
he's played well for a rookie that nobody knew coming into this year.
That's fair.
And he shouldn't.
I think you could say he's. What's that?
He has not earned the right to be the starter next year.
No,
he's earned the opportunity to fight for competition.
I don't think so.
He's the lesser Taylor Heineke.
Like here, I'll say this, and this is to Ray's defense. I think with Taylor Heineke, you have that situation of, well, Taylor won us games, so he should be able to get defended. But with Mills, you specifically never won us games. Like that defense has looked a lot better than people thought, and that's what's won them games. Like Mills is dog shit.
And Tyrod Taylor when he was kind of.
So what am I up to now? That's 4, right, El?
No, that was 5.
Yeah, that's 5. That's 5. Unless you have another one, because I have one, and another one is Mike Tomlin.
No, stop.
I love it. But it's just
the Steelers don't do that. They'll let.
I know the Steelers. Oh, I know they don't do it, but that don't mean his seat ain't hot.
I'll take Mike Tomlin.
I think there's one other. I think there's one other one, and Ray, this one might hurt because I like it. I think Ron Rivera is going to have a look, depending on how things go.
I think the options will definitely be explored.
I think that as much as I like Ron Rivera, I think that the Washington franchise, I actually think some more stuff is going to come out this offseason. I think that these emails are going to get leaked, and I think Snyder and that whole organization are going to be just a bad thing. And in all honesty, I love Ron Rivera. I think in some ways, I think he's like a Wade Phillips type, where he would actually be served best as a or as an assistant head coach, defensive coordinator, where if one of these young guys, especially these young offensive gurus, get the job. If you can remember when Sean McVay went to the Rams, his defensive coordinator was Phillips, and they said that was a huge deal having him to kind of bounce off of. I think Rivera is in that same kind of class, but I think that Washington is going to go through a lot of issues. They can't solve the quarterback situation. I think Snyder actually might be forced to sell the team, and I'm not sure that Rivera wants to or should want to stick around if this whole situation is going to get worse, because this happened before he got there. Most of this happened before he got there, and I think if there's, again, I don't think that they're not going to drop the hammer on them, But I really think that this is the offseason. You could see Washington forced to sell. And I'm not sure. I mean, people might beg Rivera, but a new owner, they don't want to keep a head coach. They want to hire their own person, which is exactly what happened with Rivera whenever Carolina got bought. He did 1 year and they replaced him with Matt Rule. So again, does Rivera want to have that 1 year of lame duckness if they're forced to sell the team? I mean, we saw the Richardson deal go down fast. So I think Rivera is one of those people just through circumstance could be on the hot seat.
Right. And
and Ray, do you like Rivera, like as a coach in general?
Yeah.
I think he's okay.
He's a good leader, I think. I
think his story's good. I question some of the end game decisions, some of the play calling stuff that I've seen this team do throughout the year. I don't think he has favor with management. They've actually given him more control once we got Bruce out of there. So I don't think Snyder will be forced to sell just because they've already said no more emails are coming out. So unless they change course drastically, which the NFL, when they want something destroyed, New England Patriots fans know how that works. Stuff goes away. So I don't think that that's the case. I am curious that nobody brought up either of the New York teams. And for me, with the way Zach Wilson's played and the way Daniel Jones has played, I think Joe Judge is on very borrowed time because I don't think there's any future there in New York for anybody on that offense. Like, I don't think I don't think there's a talent there that you said that's what we want to build around. And I think part of that is – I think a lot of that is coaching. I don't think he should have ever got the job, to be perfectly honest. And the way in which they've performed, like, it's just not good enough.
Right.
And given what I've seen out of Zach Wilson in that offense, and I just don't know how much rope that you're going to get from Robert Saleh, especially when Buffalo and New England are playing and performing the way that they are. The future looks pretty bleak. And even Miami has gone on a run. So when you got three teams trending upward and you're mediocre to going down, I just don't know if you can last through that if you haven't proven that you can start moving that direction. Right. But Judge might not be the problem, but he's not the solution either. Right. And I've seen little to no progress, or I've seen more regression than progression from Daniel Jones. And that's a sign that typically falls on the head coach.
Right. And that was where I was going to go with it. Is I was going to say the New York guys. You could say Gettleman has to go, but at the end of the day, they're a GM and a head coach are hand in hand because one picked the other and the other is doing whatever the other one tells him to do. And that's just how it goes. The thing with Judge is it's an excuse. The reason why people don't put him, it's the same thing with Mitchell Trubisky and Matt Nagy. Oh, well, Joe Judge isn't the problem because Jones can't stay healthy, Barkley can't stay healthy, Galladay can't stay healthy, this, and this. Nagy shouldn't get fired because Mitchell Trubisky is a bad quarterback. No, at the end of the day, you're poor at what you do. You just have somewhat of a valid excuse right now. Now, when all of those guys are healthy and Joe Judge still isn't calling great plays, that's on you, and that's your look. And for me, to be more serious, because I know Ricky's out here calling for my head, Brian DeBall is my favorite candidate for the Chicago Bears. I have said that, and I have reiterated that all year long. And you know what? I'm at a point to where I've said it time and time again. If you want to put in an entire new face and actually take a risk and bring in someone who understands the game of football, I'm perfectly fine. And I know it's so out of pocket. If you want to get Peyton Manning in here, because Peyton Manning loves Chicago. He's been hanging out here all summer long at Wrigley Field, doing his thing. I saw him a couple times. If you want to bring in Peyton Manning as the general manager of the Chicago Bears, bring in a financial team around him. That's perfectly fine because he understands the game of football. Now, another businessman is not going to get the Bears over the hump because that's been their problem the last 30 years is businessman. The owners are businessmen. George Halas, God rest his soul, is gone. Virginia McCaskey's 99 years old. Her son's an idiot, and he's in charge. Ted Phillips is an idiot, and he's in charge. Sorry, Virginia, but he's god awful. But it's definitely something to where you look at it and you have to be honest with yourself. This is for Freddie and all the Giants fans in the world. I was the Lone Ranger. I was the Lone Ranger that said, Matt Nagy is using guys as an scapegoat. And that's just the reality of it. Jordan Howard was a pretty solid running back. Mitchell Trubisky was serviceable. Not good. He was serviceable. You could go places with him. Now, you can literally look at it from that perspective and see now you have Justin Fields, David Montgomery, this, and this, and you still look like dog shit. now what's your excuse? Oh, well, I have a rookie quarterback. Like, bro, you're in the NFL. You are a leader amongst men. And you were telling me just because this kid's 20 years old, you can't make him look decent. That's your job to make him look better than what he is. That's why Lamar Jackson in his second year won MVP, is because John Harbaugh understood what it took to be able to make this kid look good and utilize him to his strengths. Joe Judge doesn't do that with Daniel Jones. He tried to do that by surprising everyone, that allowing this kid to run the ball. Now that defenses have been preparing for that, now Daniel Jones is injured, and that's because he's not athletic. He's just a decent quarterback who's reasonably sized. He's pretty fast, but he's not athletic. There's a difference between being the fastest kid in the schoolyard and being the most athletic kid in the school. Like, one kid can dunk and the other kid can outrun the girls. That's perfectly fine. But it's definitely something to where you look at it and you say Joe Judge is a problem whether you like it or not. And as for Robert Saleh, I think it was a questionable hire to begin with. You brought in a defensive coordinator when you didn't have a defense to begin with. So I always have felt like that's a weird look. Now, if the Bears do it, it's a different conversation, because it's like, all right, well, when healthy, they're a top 10 defense, arguably top 5, depends who you ask at this point. But it's really a situation to where it's like with the Jets, you didn't have anything to begin with. So you have to bring in someone who understands a culture. Now, what does Robert Saleh know best is losing in the Super Bowl and losing to Patrick Mahomes. That's not something I would want to instill in my young team. And especially with a chance on a kid from BYU, which we're talking about race and taking quarterbacks for some weird reason. How Justin Fields fell and this kid went number 2 overall is still beyond me. But, yeah, I think New York needs to set everything free on both sides of the ball.
Hey,
I love
real
Robert.
quick, Mike, 2 questions for you.
Mm-hmm.
I think you said you wanted Dabo out of Buffalo. Is that who you were saying?
Yeah, Brian DeBall.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess my question there is, a lot of Buffalo's issues this year tend to be that the offense has fallen off a cliff.
And you know what? You know what I think that is, though, when I really look at it as a whole picture, like, Ray, being completely non-biased with you, I look at it and I see zero trust in Singletary, who is 5'7". I see Moss, who can't stay healthy. I see a one-dimensional team, and they're trying to run the ball. They just can't, because Singletary's fumbling. He can't hold on to the ball. He can't get out of the pocket. He can't do anything. Josh Allen, if he's mobile, it's planned for. So they're game planning on that. They're a one-dimensional team. And you see the same thing with Sean McVay and the Rams. That's why they look so poor. Henderson is ass. Michelle is ass. Like, that's why Matthew Stafford.
Whoa.
I'm sorry.
Well, Henderson is showing they're not really ass. They're just not really.
Henderson, I'll give you, but Sonny's been all right.
He's been all right. But when you look at it, combining both of their yards each game, they're not even tapping over 50 yards combined. That's where I'm looking at it. That's why you're a one-dimensional team. Now, if you brought in Todd Gurley of old and you're putting them in this Rams offense, they're going to be elite. They're a powerhouse. That's what I'm saying is Brian DeBall last year looked a lot better because Singletary was actually looking a little bit decent. He was being more capable. They weren't game planning for Josh Allen running the ball. If Brian DeBall comes to Chicago, you have David Montgomery, Justin Fields, Khalil Herbert, Jakeem Grant, who just made the Pro Bowl. You have a bunch of guys, and you have weapons: Allen Robinson, Darnell Mooney, Cole Kmet. I'm not going to act like those guys are amazing, but I'm saying they're definitely serviceable right now. So I think if you were to give him an actual running game, I'm really curious to see how much he flourishes.
And my second question to that would be, you would prefer him, and I don't know what's going to happen this bowl season, but there's a guy not too far north that had a running quarterback and took him to the Super Bowl. Right. Is he not somebody worth kicking the tires on, throw some money at him?
It's an interesting conversation. And it's something to where I want to have that. But I just feel like, Ray, I think you can agree with me. There is too much money being thrown and too many houses being thrown at guys just to stay in college. Like, these universities are offering more than the NFL can offer. That's the craziest part. Like, so I don't realistically see that happening. I would love it, but I just don't see it realistically happening.
Fair enough.
Robert Saleh just tested positive for COVID.
Good. Someone on that team is catching something.
Well,
I'm sorry.
People.
That was rude.
12 people.
I don't know if we're in a world we can joke about COVID yet.
Oh, we definitely can, because if you're not laughing about it, you're crying about it. I'm not trying to cry about it 3 years in.
There's something I wanted to bring up about Salah, about your point real quick, Mike. You guys got me up way past my bedtime. You're killing me.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, bro.
I told you, I think this is the last
10:13.
conversation.
That's my girl.
Yeah,
I'm like,
so we're
Okay.
about to be done.
Okay, so Sala was brought in. Actually, the best part of the Jets was their defense. Remember, they signed C.J. Mosley in free agency. He opted out last year. They had Marcus May, who was their franchise tag safety, who they won't give an extension to. So the GM is really the issue.
right.
Also, remember this point. These are two important points when thinking about this offense and Zach Wilson's growth. Number one, Greg Knapp, a veteran quarterbacks coach, was supposed to work with Zach Wilson this year. He tragically died in a bicycle accident before the season started. So he did not have that veteran leader to guide him through his rookie season.
Right.
The other problem is anytime you have a rookie, the one thing that you cannot do is you cannot leave the position behind them in purgatory. The Patriots brought back Brian Hoyer because Brian Hoyer knows that system. That every time Mac Jones had a question, Brian Hoyer was there with an answer. Who's the backup quarterback for the Jets? Mike White. Who the hell's Mike White? Because he doesn't know Robert Sala's system. Because Robert Sala doesn't have a system. The problem is last year, as bad as he was, Joe Flacco was a veteran on the Jets. He was somebody that if you have a rookie in there, he can ask him questions. Hey, Joe, what about this? What about that? Hey, make sure you do this. Make sure you do that. As much as we like to make fun of Joe Flacco, you have to have that veteran leader. And the Jets don't have it this year. Again, it's bad team building, which I don't blame on Sala. I blame on the GM.
Right. But Ray, or Joe, to your point though, my thing is, and it always is my thing. It's I bring it back to Patrick Beverley. When people say, "What does Patrick Beverley do best? What's he known for?" It's his defense.
I'm sad.
That doesn't mean he's good. You know what I mean? Like, okay, what's the Jets known for last year? Oh, their defense. That doesn't mean it was a good defense. That just means everything else was dog shit, and that was somewhat reasonable.
But your building blocks are on defense. So you want a coach in there. Again, I think the Jets are suffering from just a situation of every move that they make is 2 steps behind where they need to be. It's like, oh, we got a new head coach. Well, you actually should have got a new head coach 2 years ago.
Right.
Oh, well,
it's like Portland in the game. Like, you're late.
I mean, the smartest thing they ever did was trade Jamal Adams. They're going to get 2 top 10 picks.
Right.
And Jamal Adams, number one, I mean, I'm not a Jamal Adams fan. I think it was a great trade for them because I think he's a terrible player when it comes to the modern NFL because for the money they paid him, you could go out and get 3 starters. But again, that's a whole other issue. But again, I think Sala is safe just because of the circumstances. I actually think that's a situation where the GM needs fired. But that's a whole other story.
Yeah,
there's a flag. Okay, calm down. There was a flag. What was it off? Is it on us? Like, sorry. This game, Ricky, it's like last 2 seconds, and I think it might have been a flag against Mizzou. It is. Damn it! We just lost our bowl game in the last because of a penalty. We just lost our bowl game.
Kid lost
his okay. Time. Yeah. Whatever. On that note, I'm hurt. But
in closing, Joe, you said something that, and I was going to let it go.
Here we go.
Relieve me, Ray.
I couldn't. It alluded to Aaron Rodgers has better numbers than Brady, I believe you said earlier. And I just wanted to, I guess, get more clarity because I don't see where you see that, especially considering the talent disparity and inconsistency that Brady's had on his offense.
Hold on, Ray. Don't hop on, Freddie. We about to get off. Like, seriously. After this is done, we're done.
Leaving. I love you guys. I'll see you later.
Right?
I'm leaving
before I just wanted to ask, what were you speaking of specifically in that, and then I'll go. Oh, we can go.
Okay, well, I'll speak to it real quick. I don't have the raw numbers in front of me, and I'm not going to because, again, it's late. But I will say the efficiency numbers for Rodgers are better. Don't give me overall stats because, number one, Rodgers did miss that game. But what I'm saying is just because, like, okay, is the passing yards leader the MVP every year? No. Why? Because it doesn't always correlate to winning. Is the touchdowns leader always the MVP? No. Why? Because it doesn't always correlate to winning. Aaron Rodgers is having a great touchdown to interception ratio, as he always does. He is playing with I think a much better running back stable than Tampa Bay has, which is fair to say, and a far lesser overall wide receiver stable. Now, right now, you're going to see it come back a little bit because the simple fact of the injuries of Godwin and Evans and stuff like that. But basically, we saw two players shadowing Devontae Adams all game. We saw one guy lined across from him and another guy about 7 yards back. And they're telling Aaron Rodgers, beat us with somebody else. And do you know what he's doing? He's beating you with somebody else. And Tom Brady does that also. So I think it's more than fair to say that they're 1-2. Freddie says Brady do have like 14 interception. Does is the correct.
Does because I was like, dude, like what?
Yeah.
Okay.
But the point of it is I think when you look at overall raw stats, yeah, Brady. But again, as I've mentioned numerous times, he's on pace to set the attempts record. So yes, is he going to have more yards? Probably. Is he going to have more touchdowns? Probably. But when I look at it and the way it looks over the whole season, I think it's neck and neck. And right now, I give Aaron Rodgers a slight advantage.
Okay.
And Freddie, he has 11.
So
I had to look it up.
I think the key for me is most valuable player.
Yeah.
And I agree on paper, Brady has the better offense, at least at wide receiver. But there's been no continuity on any of his receivers options most of this year. Like Mike Evans is Mike Evans, but outside of Mike Evans, between AB being in and out, Scotty Miller being in and out, Godwin's hurt now, but he's been in and out throughout the year as well. He's had to rely on Leonard Fournette because they don't have a running game. You don't really get much play action because they don't have anybody that can run the ball. And when you're still outpacing by almost 1,000 yards, yeah, there's a 1-game difference. And yes, the attempts are there, but 1,000 yards is a whole lot to overcome. I think Aaron also has the ability to be more careful and cautious. One, because he's always been that. Two, his defense is better. He can afford to trust his defense. And three, he doesn't have to take the risks that other people will have to take. They both had really bad games. Aaron Rodgers started the year awfully this last game for Brady. But as much as people are killing Brady for this last game, by the end of that game, by the second half, he only had 3 receivers. And he had lost his starting running back. So I think we're overstating. It was a shutout. I'm not taking that away. But he lost a ton, and he was having to play on the fly. And they're only a 2-game difference in the win column. So it's not like one's exponentially better than the other.
Which is why they're neck and neck. Right? When I say that Brady's not the consensus MVP, I'm not saying that he's 10th. I'm just saying everybody wanted 2 weeks ago. Everybody wanted to hand Brady the trophy, and it's like, there's
rightfully so at the time.
Yeah.
Again, at the time, I think that was fair. I would say he's come back to the pack, but I was more so speaking of, you said Rodgers is better numbers, and I think it's easier to be efficient when you have a better defense and you're in a system that doesn't require you to throw. If Tampa wasn't throwing the ball as much as they are, I don't think they would have the record they have. They have to throw the ball because they don't have a running back. And we saw when Leonard Fournette had to become the man, now he's hurt. So I think that Arizona and Tampa had the same problem. They had really good running backs, but they can't afford to run the ball significantly enough because the running backs just can't handle that kind of wear and tear. And we're seeing both dealing with issues in that area now.
But I also see that if Tom Brady and his team were running the ball more, that Tom Brady would not even be close to the MVP discussion. Because the last year he was in New England where they did run the ball more, he was not in the MVP discussion.
But they weren't winning.
I'm saying their last Super Bowl run against the Rams. He was not an MVP that season.
I agree. That's fair. But yeah, I agree with both of you. And I do agree that both of them are neck and neck. And
I agree with that.
And these 2 games, even though it might not seem something, it might seem well, I will say 2 because I don't think they'll play unless it's something they need to play. I don't see them playing the last game.
I think they're going to have to play because Dallas's schedule is easy down the stretch, and Green Bay wants that 1 seed. Everybody that's in position to get that 1 seed is going to go for it because you get the bye. I don't think we're going to see a year where everybody's resting.
But Tom Brady might, you know what I'm saying? Even though but it just depends. More likely, probably more like his team around him is going to be sitting because of injuries. It's his team is banged up, and that might help them. And like what Ray said, Ray, that might help them on the long run, and that might be a win for them because they come back healthy. Freddie talking nonsense. I could punch him for you anytime you need me to, Ray, because he talk about Brady, a Brady fan.
I'm as much a Brady fan as a regular person. Like, I just appreciate what he's done, and I continue to be awed by it. Like, I thought he was gonna be done 4 years ago.
And Freddie is the A.A. Ron fan, so that's all he's talking about.
And he has carried me this year. Last week he hurt me, but in fantasy, Brady's been carrying me. So
I'll have to dap you on that because I have Tom Brady in both of my leagues, and my backup is Mahomes in one, and my other one's Matt Stafford. So my quarterback situation actually has been fine. So
I was just looking. The Cowboys, Cardinals, and Rams are all 10, and Bucks are all 10-4, and the Packers at 11-3. So I don't think anybody's gonna be resting here these last couple weeks. No, they got some bad.
I know. None of my team. My team needs all the prayers. Hoops, hop. I don't have faith in my team. Everybody has more faith in the Cowboys than I do.
I mean, they're going out in the first round, but they'll definitely make it.
Like, seriously, that's where I really have them going. But on that note, because I said we were going to end it on the hot seats, I really want to see if we are right. I should have wrote them down. And we'll figure it out. I know majority of us, like I said, it was almost kind of same, but we'll see. And thank you everybody for coming out. We will not be on Friday, even though it says that we'll be on Friday. Friday is Christmas Eve. We are taking Friday off. So we will be back next Wednesday. Hopefully some exciting football happens. And most of all, Merry Christmas to everybody because we will miss you. But catch the team next Wednesday, and then our network will be on tomorrow morning. Oh yeah, we play y'all. I forgot it's a Sunday night game. I totally forgot we play y'all, Ray. Like, that's how much I just haven't been paying attention.
Short week. I have no expectation. At this point, we might as well just pack it up, see if we can get in that top 14 to 15 range. And, we don't there's no quarterbacks to draft, so we'll just have to draft for some talent, best player available.
Yes, I agree with that. And like I said, thank you and good night, everybody. Have a great evening.
All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we're making up plays. You talking the game, get you to the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety, topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays.